Hey, what's going on? So, global controlled food demolition. It's the dark future. It's what's happening. It's the global, it's going to be the global hunger games, hunger crisis. You know, God's like looking down on planet Earth and looking at us and like, what are you people doing? What are you people doing? I mean, what are you people doing? I mean, So we're going to talk about global controlled food demolition, and it's not an accident. It's not an accident. I mean, let's just go back a little bit. This was also happening. There was a CIA program back in the 1950s, um, and it was during the Cold War. And what was it was disinformation. It was propaganda where it was CIA run, and what they would do is um, create false information, disinformation, because they wanted the world to know we were doing something we weren't. Well, they just started that up again. I believe it was called Operation um, Mockingbird. Operation Mockingbird, and so now they did it again. They've got this board of called disinformation. And here's what they do. This board, this is U.S. They, if you're not with the consensus, they will attack you and say disinformation, disinformation. So, like, we know that the processing plants were burning down all over the place. I mean, not by accident. Some that aren't even, all those people are out of jobs all over this year, 2022. And if you try to look it up, this CIA run um, um, this board of disinformation, they will take they will do what's called shadow banning, and they'll fill up the first 10 pages of stuff. Oh, that didn't happen. The fire isn't. This didn't happen. It wasn't a fire. It was normal. It's all that word, right? And so these people go in there, and so you can't even find information anymore, even though it's true. You won't find it because they will take over the Google search engine. And so the disinformation people, which is CIA run, and it's designed to make it so you can't find stuff. And it's a fact that these food processing plants are burning down all over the place. Okay, and so you got to fight this. You can't even find the truth. You know, I mean, so you got to try to look for the truth. You have to try to use tag words and find things. But what's going on is the world is now weaponizing food. Okay, they're weaponizing food, and they're doing it many different ways. Okay, number one, you had the the um, board of disinformation, which isn't helping, right? They create the false flags, and you got CIA creating false flags, and then they filling your minds up with trauma-based mind control, and so you don't even know what's really going on. But in the meantime, they're starving the world, and not only that, there's like all kind of wars going on. I mean, some of the wars going on are the animal wars. They're trying to get rid of animals. They don't want so in California they're not stocking fish because the fish have a bacteria. Kind of like the humans had a virus for the last 3 years. Well, the fish have a bacteria, so they're killing fish. I mean, a couple areas they killed like 600,000 fish. They're not putting fish in the streams, and they're not stocking fish. So the fishermen aren't going to have fish to catch. They're not stocking them. They're killing in Texas. In Texas, they're killing deer, and apparently, the deer. They're saying that it has chronic wasting disease. It's a zombie deer disease, and so they're going to deer farms and killing the deer. And they test one deer somewhere, and who knows who's doing the test? and then they go kill all the deer. And now they're going to make hunters that hunt deer. You're going to have to find a place to take your deer to have it tested. So you're not only paying, you're paying for the license and the tag. Now you got to pay to have the deer tested, for chronic wasting disease, or some people call it zombie deer disease or something like that. So, and then the more food, more war. There's war on food, fruit, war on everything. We're just on the animals. Then you have the bird flu. Hey, they gave the flu to us and it shut down the whole economy. And you have to remember this. We've been shut down for a couple of years now, which it's all the domino effect, right? And it's not an accident. They do the domino effect, and it takes forever to get back on track. So, you don't have shipping, then all of a sudden you don't have fuel. You can't have tractor parts. So the farmers can't get parts because the tractor parts aren't coming in. Then the you shut down the fertilizer business. So they're not getting fertilizer. Then you throw a few bugs out there. So it's a complete assault, on our food of the world. I mean, there's 7.5 billion people on this planet, and sure, there's about 800 million of them that are starving, but there's going to be more starving. These Hunger Games haven't even started. We might not see it here in the States, but it's good. It's happening everywhere. You know, so they come up with a bird flu, and they kill in England. They kill 5 million chickens. Now they want you to tag the chickens. I mean, before you know it, you're going to have to barcode every egg, especially if you take it to the market. So all this red tape is in there, and you have to start testing PCR testing of chickens. I guess that's the test. Whatever, they're going to make you test your chickens, and what if there's a false positive, false negative? Maybe the test isn't right, and they go kill all your chickens. So that's why eggs and prices are up. And of course they're killing sheep in Europe, same kind of thing. Mad cows, they're killing cows, and so I'm not saying they're making out, they're protecting us from these bacteria and diseases and flus, but they're gonna, a million people are gonna starve. Okay, you think you think that's an accident? No, and so all this stuff is going on. So it's attacking the animals, attacking the fish, and then you have other problems. Okay, so they're closing down greenhouses, empty greenhouses. There's floods. There's too much water. Okay, and some of that is not by accident. Weather modification. You have to check into that. Okay, and then there's a complete slowdown, of the shipping and transportation, and they make stuff very, very expensive. Okay, what's diesel fuel? $6 now. It's very expensive just to bring a truck from California on up. And then they're putting all these laws into place too. Like in Australia, they just passed a bill, and these people, these agents don't even need to have identification. They go right to your farm, your poultry business, whatever, and they can start asking you questions. You got to provide them all this information. You don't know who they are, and of course they're going to fine you $1,800. I think is what a ticket is. They can take your animals and test them, and they're like they come to your farm and tell you what to do. And the whole idea is to make it difficult, to make it expensive, to not make it feasible. And then of course, you look stuff up, and they tell us that there's a food shortage, and they'll blame it on things they created, but they'll make it sound good because the internet police. So they'll say there's food shortages, right? And basically they'll blame it on, let's say, climate change for one of them. Well, I'm not going to get into that, okay? But what about weather modification? And what causes climate change? Maybe bunker fuel, burning fuel on ships, to change the jet streams, to seed clouds, okay? They can create drought. They can create rain, and they want to blame it on Greta stuff. Poor nutrition. They want to blame food shortages on poor nutrition. I mean, poor nutrition is probably the fake food. All the food in boxes and cans, it's got pesticides. I mean, if you're eating food that's been sprayed with pesticides, moldicides, insecticides, it's been genetically modified. Sure, there's going to be, you know, poor nutrition as one of the causes, but they caused it. Poor economy. You know, poor economy. Hey, I didn't shut down the economy. I didn't tell people to stay in their buildings for 3 years. I didn't come up with all this 6 foot stuff. I mean, I didn't tell people that they couldn't work because they didn't have a piece of paper. I didn't shut down. They did. That's the poor. They created that. You know, food waste. You know, food waste. Well, when you kill 5 million chickens, there's some food waste there, isn't there? When you shut down, the shipping lanes and slow them down, and it costs so much money, then it takes forever for the barges to get to where to get going, and it gets ruined on the barges. Food waste, right? And not being able to ship because gas prices, it's stockpiles in place. Food waste. What about, flooding people out? And what about farmers that get paid by the government not to grow things? There's a whole business, a whole industry where they pay farmers pay money not to grow things. Um, and then there's some new ones they're coming up with. Of course, they got to throw gender equality in there. One of them is because a lot of these countries don't let women be farmers. Oh, you're going to solve the food crisis by letting women be farmers in some third world countries. That's going to make a difference? I don't think so. And then you have forced um, what is it? Populate Forced migration. That's it. Forced migration, where you create a war, right? Because the CIA creates all the wars. I mean, we're going ever since 1947. Most wars are created as a social engineering project for one reason or another. So you create these things. So you want to create forced migration. So you send all a bunch of people from a place that had great, perfect, lots amount of, like Ukraine had tons of food, and then you want to move them to other places that don't have food. Okay, I mean, it's all social engineering, and then they want to blame these things for the food hunger games that are coming. They created every single one of them. Every single one of them. I mean, I just did a video this morning on lettuce that costs $4.69. I mean, why are they banning planting of trees, certain trees in Ohio? Because why would you ban planting flowering trees? The bees need these flowering trees. They ban it because they smell offensive. Some liberal woman didn't like the way it smelled. She said it smelled like fish. And so this whole food crisis was manufactured. It was socially engineered, and and basically it's just the beginning of it. And then you've got, like I said, you've got the board of disinformation that completely distorts everything. Oh, that's not happening. That's not true. That's not true. But think about it. You walked out 3 years ago. You spent $100 and you walked out with a whole shopping cart. I have friends that own small stores and food stores, and nobody fills their shopping carts. Nobody's filling. And I'm a home inspector, and I go to people's homes, and I inspect refrigerators and I inspect the appliances. Refrigerators, man, there ain't nothing in the refrigerators. There's nothing in there. I mean, there's some food in there. I mean, there's some leftovers. There's delivered food, like a pizza box or something. Then you got your condiments, your 4, 5 condiments that they have. And in the freezer, there's always like a thing of ice cream and some frozen, dinners in there, okay, in the freezer. And maybe like some frozen chicken. And so people plan their meals. Now, it's not like they fill up their refrigerators and they fill up their, the old days. I've been an inspector for 40 years. And so I used to go to people's house and they have a refrigerator in the garage with filled, the basement freezer filled, the refrigerator filled, and then the cupboards in the kitchen filled. Now they're not filled, okay? And so there's less food. The food is more expensive. And and it's basically It's basically global controlled food demolition, is what it is. And I'm sure we have 7.5 million people, and they're saying, oh, that's another one. We can't feed 7.5 million people. Yeah, it's kind of hard to feed when you shut down 50% of all the wheat. You kill 30% of the chickens. You kill 10%. You kill 30%, of the deer. You know, you don't grow fish, right? You don't stock ponds and rivers. You know that you increase fuel costs to a point where it's unfeasible. Some people can't even stay in business. 7.5 billion people, we have plenty of food. They're making it so we don't have enough food. And so it's all socially engineered, people, and it's just the beginning. I mean, you don't see it yet. Maybe you don't see it. Maybe you don't care. Um, but what they don't want you to do, and there's this guy called I said New Age Farmer in previous videos. I meant Ice Age Farmer. And he was doing a lot of videos, and they shut people like him down because he's telling people you can't, and this is the fact, do not count on somebody else feeding you. And he says that. And he's not the only one. There's a lot of, that's why you have all these people moving out to the country, they're they call them homesteaders. And if you look at YouTube, you're going to see them all like showing you how to grow this and grow that because they're all trying to make money off of YouTube because they're not making any other money. And so, but that's okay. But there's a lot out there for you to learn. And the bottom line is you have to provide for yourself. How are you going to do that? Are you going to wait until there's a sale at Whole Foods or Finest? I mean, there's a lot of free food too, but if you go to the food banks, like in Cleveland, they have food at the municipal lot. That's where they have all the parties for the Browns, pre-Brown games, or what do we call them, tailgate parties. I don't watch sports, so I would know, but I do drive by there, and there's like long lines that are half a mile long, people trying to get free food. And of course, a lot of the food locally that you get free, it's a lot of the food that Finest can't sell because it was overpriced and nobody could afford it. And then some of it went bad, and then they'll give that away for free food. So I've seen some of the food they give too that's free, and most of it is part of that poor nutrition because it could be boxes that are starting to get close to expiring. So these stores look at their boxes, they couldn't sell them because they want to charge too much. No one's buying them, and so they might have like a couple of weeks left, and they give those away. Okay, and there's ways you could buy food. There's foods they call salvage yards, but they sell like expired food. I've been to them places, and you know expiration dates, certain expiration date. I mean, expiration dates on nuts, they get nasty, right? But expiration date on processed food, a lot of times the cans, hell, I mean, you could you could probably eat a Campbell's food can that's 20 years old. It probably still tastes the same. But so you can look for food that way. You can look for free food for handouts, or you could create your own food. And I would say figure out how to create your own food. And if you don't have a farm, go find one. And a lot of cities have community gardens, and some of them are large. They're like 20 by, 30 by 50, 20 by 50. You could plant a lot of food there. You just got to be smart. What you could plant. That might be enough for one person, not maybe for the whole year, but it surely will subsidize it. And so you can get yourself a community garden if you're in the inner city, you know. And if there's a few empty lots, you could probably call the city, and they because they got to cut the grass and say, hey, listen, I'll cut the grass, cut a deal. They might just start gardening on it, and put up some fences and some stakes, and all of a sudden the guys that show up with the lawnmowers, they're like, oh, something going on here. I guess we ain't cutting this. We'll cut up to here, and just start growing food on it. I mean, no one's using the land. There's tons of lots in Cleveland, and if you're out in the burbs, they got rules. You can't like plant tomatoes in some neighborhoods in the front yards. Give it a try. Start with a few in the front. So put flowers, put tomatoes. Don't plant bushes in your front of your house. Don't plant flowers unless you could eat them or make tea out of them. Why would you have 5, 10, 15 tomato plants in front of your house? They look like flowers. I mean, the fruit is colorful. Get different kind of tomatoes. They're going to look fine. I mean, why can't you put beans growing on your front steps on your rails going up? They're beans. They're not weeds. You know. Um, so you need to control your own food. If you're going to wait for for them to control your food, I'm telling you, man, you may even have money isn't going to buy you anything if there's nothing on the shelves. And they rationed gas in the 70s, right? They rationed food all over. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't start rationing here. It's not over because this year was a bad year for farmers. It hasn't hit us yet. Just wait. Next year's not going to be any better. And right now it is the fall. You got plenty of time. You could eat all the food in your house. You probably got enough old stuff that you don't eat anyways, but you'll end up eating it. And you could get ready for next season, next spring. You can. And you could put them in pots and put them in your driveway. Half your driveway, you could move the pots back and forth. You could drill a couple. If you're in a town where you can't take water, from the gutters, okay, well, drill some holes in the gutters and put a few pots underneath them so it rains, they get free water, right? If the gutter falls down, don't put it back up, put plants underneath it, get free water. So, basically, you're going to have to fend for yourself. And I know this video is probably 2, 3 years premature, but I remember I've got videos and posts on Facebook from 5 years ago. I said this was going to happen. And I remember even 2 years ago, I said the food prices are going to go up by 10, 20% per year. And I had a bunch of people make fun out of me. And they would give me these facts they got from Google. They Google, food price increase 2019, 18, 2%. And again, what did I tell you? There is the board of disinformation police. They're the ones that are disinformation. The news is disinformation. I mean, it's all BS. You should know that. I mean, that one president called it fake news. Well, it is fake news if it's disinformation, or it's basically biased towards an agenda or a narrative. But anyway, so the global controlled food demolition is in full swing. It's going to catch up to us next year. It's going to be worse next year than it is this year. It's getting worse every year, and God's looking down on planet Earth like, man, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing? Anyways, hey, thanks for coming on. Please rate, subscribe. And for home inspection, I do have a service. Call Marco with a question, Marko. Call Marco with a question. Google it. I've been inspecting homes for 40 years, 18,000 homes. Pretty much solve any house problem there is. If you can't figure it out, give me a call. If you got issues, you want me to look at like a waterproofing bit or something, I could do all that. Usually 15, 20 minutes, we can solve your house problem. Sometimes people send me some photos. Maybe you got an expert case you want, you need an expert witness, or you need a report, to help, a 1-year warranty, whatever. Call Marco with a question. Google it. And hey, thanks for coming on. You got to fend for yourself. Oh, my finger's on this side. The camera's over here. I'm on my phone. There's the phone. Anyways, fend for yourself. Worry about your own food. Grow your own food.